Hello and welcome to another episode of the Connection Compass podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Louise Evans. On Monday, the 20th of October, I am holding an event in Manchester, building safer spaces for people to thrive through the holistic lens. If you are interested in leadership, an aspiring leader, or an interest in culture change, please check the show notes for further details. I would love to see you there. In this episode, I'm joined by Mindfulness Teacher Dave Gardner for a rich and grounded conversation about what it really means to bring mindfulness into everyday life. We explore how simple moments in life can become powerful opportunities to practice presence, curiosity, and compassion. Together, we talk about how adventures awaken our senses, how mindfulness can support us through grief and anxiety, and how science continues to reveal what happens when we choose to connect more deeply with the moment we are in. Dave shares how his own journey with mindfulness began through healing and how training in this practice opens the door to choosing our thoughts more consciously, meeting others with compassion, and living with more ease. Hello, good morning, Dave, and welcome to the Connection Compass podcast. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Andrea. Yeah, thanks for having me along on the podcast.
So, for our listeners, could you share a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, certainly. Well, to answer the question mindfully, and the awareness, really, the awareness behind a trauma-informed mindfulness teacher, originally from near Chester, Liverpool area, emigrated to Manchester around 15 years ago now. And I live with my wife and our two boys, which usually means there's a football flying past my head at some point in the day.
Yeah.
But I'm deeply passionate about mindfulness because it's made such a difference in my own life. So it's really helped me navigate stress, burnout, and the general chaos of everyday living. And over time, I've come to see it as my calling, really, to guide others towards the same sort of benefits. And not in a float up on the mountaintop kind of way, but in a practical, down to earth way that you can use when the kids are playing up or the kettle's boiling over, or you realize that you spilt gravy down your top, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's what we need, isn't it? Just really grounded moments to weave into everyday life.
Absolutely.
Especially in today's world where it's so fast paced and lots of noise.
Yeah. I try to make it practical, whereas it can still be relaxing and can still be a break and a reset from that everyday life. Actually bringing in practical tools that can help people to actually manage their day-to-day lives.
I did notice that at the beginning of the year, you've started an A to Z challenge. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so the A to Z challenge is the Park Run Alphabetia challenge. So I'm a keen runner and big fan of Park Run. It's a brilliant way to get moving and meet new people and feel part of a community, really, as well. And I think it was one day I got chatting to another runner who told me about this idea of completing a park run beginning with every letter of the alphabet. And naturally, I thought, well, that sounds ridiculous and also brilliant. And so far, I've ticked off, I think it's 68%. So it's 17 out of 25 of the park runs. So there isn't one beginning with X, although you can do Exeter. And the nearest Z is in the Netherlands as well. So maybe a trip out there on the cards. But it's taken me to all sorts of places that I probably wouldn't have gone to otherwise. And I love that every weekend starts somewhere new. So in a different park, different routes, new people to chat to. And it's not just about the running, it's about the little adventure every week. And it's good training for mindfulness too. So you have to be present when you're trying to avoid tripping over a tree root in an unfamiliar park.
Do your family go with you? Do you do it all together?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes the kids come along with me, and sometimes, yeah, I just go and travel away on my own. But yeah, because I've only got 8 left to do, those nearest to me now are quite far away, if you see what
Oh,
I
are
mean. So
they?
I think I'm having to
Yeah.
travel down to like Birmingham and, an hour or two out. So that might be a bit more challenging. But yeah, looking forward to completing the Alphabet Ear Challenge.
When you go on the adventures, and is there a mindful aspect to that, of that traveling? I always find that if I go on a little adventure myself, opens my mind creatively. I start to think a little bit different, and a perception starts to change. It almost changes with the movement of the car.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were just talking about holidays and things before the podcast, weren't we? And I noticed that when I'm away on holiday, when I'm in a different place, that I do tend to feel more present, and naturally it brings about more mindfulness. So yeah, that's certainly my experience with, even if I'm traveling to a new park that I've been to before and it's only like 20 minutes down the road, it still kind of awakens the senses a bit, really, because it's a new
Yeah.
place that I'm not used to, and definitely makes me feel more present, aware, and more mindful.
And how did you first get into mindfulness? What's been your journey with it?
So I've struggled with anxiety really for most of my life, on and off. And I first came across mindfulness years ago through a counselor, some counseling that I was having. And back then I dabbled with it, but I didn't really give it the time or consistency that it needed to make a difference. It was after my dad passed away that things shifted. So life at the time he passed away suddenly, it all felt quite chaotic and overwhelming. And
Okay.
I felt like I needed something to help me to navigate it. And I'd
Mhm.
heard a lot about the benefits of mindfulness, and the amount of science and evidence behind it is incredible. So I made a decision to commit to it properly and began practicing regularly, deepened that practice through courses with the Mindfulness Association, a brilliant organization doing wonderful work. And then I joined a local meditation class. And it was there I got chatting to the teacher about how much I wanted to share the benefits of mindfulness with others. And she recommended the Mindfulness Now teacher training. So took the course, completed the follow-up work, and there was quite a lot to the follow-up work with, an exam, case studies, recordings, and eventually got through it and then qualified as a trauma-informed mindfulness teacher. So in a way, and I know you hear this quite a lot from people that are in the wellness industry, my teaching journey began with my own healing journey, and that's why it's so important to me that I pass it on in a grounded and compassionate way.
So how, in terms of you doing the mindfulness and it's helped you in your healing journey, can you share a little bit more about how it's helped you? Like, in what ways has it helped you? Like, maybe compare kind of what you were like beforehand and then to afterwards.
Sure. So mindfulness for me is about not getting lost in thoughts. So as human beings, we have a tendency to overthink things and perhaps make things worse. But mindfulness, it can take practice, but it's helped me to realize that we have a choice. So we don't have to latch on to every thought. We don't have to follow these narratives. We can come back to the present moment. And also compassion as well. A lot of what I teach is self-compassion, compassion for others, loving kindness. And that's helped me to be kinder to myself as well. So, whereas before I used to get lost in these anxious cycles and they'd go on for weeks, sometimes months, and I'd try to think myself out of situations, and quite often thinking was what got me into that situation in the first place. But with mindfulness, I'm able to notice more so when that's happening and then come back to the present moment and just out of my head and out of them cycles. Again, it is something that can take practice. It's not generally an overnight thing, but it's certainly been transitional for myself. And I've started to see that as well with some of the other
Mhm.
people that I've been coaching.
Do you think that there are misconceptions about mindfulness? about what it is and how it can help you?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of misconceptions about mindfulness, and I try to clear these up in my classes. One big one is the idea that mindfulness means clearing your mind of all thoughts. And the truth is, all minds think. So we all get distracted. Minds are supposed to think, really. And distraction is actually a good thing because it
Mm.
gives us the chance to remember when we're off track and come back to the present. And that's a bit like doing one press up at the gym. The important part is how you come back, and can we do it kindly without beating ourselves up. In
Mm.
mindfulness, that coming back, it usually means giving yourself an anchor, like your breath, noticing that the rising, the falling of the breath, or maybe using sound or one of the other senses.
Mhm.
And I often hear from people, I can't do this, and my mind's everywhere. But that's exactly why it takes practice. But I always include a bit of settling and grounding at the start of my classes, because jumping straight into meditation can be a challenge if your mind hasn't had the chance to calm down first. And that settling period alone often brings some relaxation benefits.
So
All
the
right.
mind can be, it's really distracting because it can send you into a bit of a spiral, can't it? So that's what you were saying, like it's recognizing that, and then like you said, bringing it back, coming back to yourself, anchoring it in something to stop that from happening.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, our minds can be used to operate in a certain way, and we could have been this way for years and years. We could be used to multitasking and trying to problem solve by overthinking things, which can quite often make things worse. If we have a little niggle, obsessing over it, analyzing it,
Mhm.
and that can actually make the problem worse than the main kind of issue itself. That can be a bigger problem. So this is perhaps a alternative way of dealing with problems and issues than what we've been used to before. So that's why it can be something that takes a bit of practice to begin with. But yeah, it can be transformational, and it is, speaking from experience, it is worth putting that practice in.
So if you think more about people who you've seen, what in your classes, what can mindfulness bring to people's lives?
Yes, simply put, more awareness, peace, presence, better focus, often better sleep. For me, the big one is less suffering. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing mindfulness, to help people to suffer less. So it helps us to step out of autopilot and respond to life with more clarity, calm, instead of getting overwhelmed by stress or stuck in that negative thinking. There is strong evidence behind it. There was a review, 2018 clinical psychology review, found that mindfulness based interventions reduce anxiety symptoms by up to 38%, depressive symptoms by around 31%. There was another landmark study following people with recurrent depression that showed that mindfulness practice cut relapse rates by nearly 44% compared to usual care. And then there are workplace studies as well. So there's a 2019 study of healthcare workers which found that mindfulness training reduced stress by over 40% and improved sleep quality, boosted resilience. You can actually see what's going on in the brain as well, and brain imaging. So that research shows that mindfulness increases grey matter in areas linked to emotional regulation, self-awareness. So it literally reshapes how we respond to stress. And the good thing about it is it's not just personal, individual, it has a ripple effect. So when people become calmer, more compassionate, present, that can change how they relate to others. So families feel it, and workplaces feel it, communities feel it. And one person's practice can inspire kindness and patience in those around them. That creates a more supportive and connective environment. And it's not just about like formal meditation either. So formal meditation, sitting and being mindful, is very powerful, but we can practice mindfulness informally. So, paying attention to everyday moments like eating, walking, it all adds up to big benefits, helping people feel more grounded and less overwhelmed. So it's
Yeah.
practical, scientifically backed, and it can help people live with more ease, and that ripple effect then touches
Yeah.
those around them.
That's really insightful and quite powerful. It gives a very powerful picture, doesn't it, of the benefits. And how has your own experience determined your practice as a mindfulness teacher?
So my own experiences, so like the good, the bad, and slightly messy in between, have massively shaped how I practice and teach mindfulness. So I try to embody mindfulness myself, and a lot of the challenges I've faced, while really difficult at the time, have ultimately been a positive in the sense that they allow me to speak from lived experience, and not just like theory. I mean, one of the biggest shifts for me is knowing which mindfulness tool to reach for in the moment, because we have different mindfulness practices. So, for example, when something challenging comes up, I'll often use the RAIN practice, which stands for Recognize, Accept, Investigate, Nurture. And that was developed by Tara Brach. So, with this, I'll recognize what's happening, then practice accepting and allowing it rather than trying to push it away, because let's be honest, most of our stress comes from resisting what's already there. And then I'll investigate gently, exploring what's underneath the feeling before nurturing myself in response and looking after myself. And I used that before a dental appointment recently. I have a bit of a phobia, but RAIN really
Um,
helped me
Me
stay grounded.
too.
Yeah.
I'm not on my own.
Yeah, I think it's quite a common one, isn't it? Yeah, with
Oh, isn't it?
dental
It's
phobias.
like a normal, rational person, and then all of a sudden it's on
Yeah,
into your mind.
yeah. But I mean, that kind of ties in with what I was saying before about how we can go about making the initial issue worse. So there's a Buddhist teaching, and mindfulness has its roots in Buddhism, although the mindfulness I teach is secular.
Mm,
But the Buddhist teaching is the Two Arrows Sutra. So, with that, the first arrow is the unavoidable pain or the discomfort that life throws at us, say, the dental drill.
mm,
And the second arrow is our reaction to it, our mental reaction to it, that, oh no, this is terrible. I can't handle it, which is actually optional, but it's often way worse than the first. So mindfulness helps us to notice, that second arrow before firing it into ourselves. And it's important for me to keep practicing, not just so that I can say that I do it, because my participants really deserve someone who's living the practice, not just reading about the materials from a book. So
yeah. Mm.
authenticity is everything in this kind of work. And I actually genuinely love mindfulness as well. I can't seem to get enough of it. So it doesn't feel like homework to keep it up.
Do you think that I don't know if this is the right word, but do you think there is a human struggle from the constant doing to coming to a place of mindfulness, of stillness? Do you feel I think
Yeah.
it's maybe not a struggle, but like a conflict perhaps, especially
Yeah.
when we've been on the go for for so long. If you've got somebody that's just been continuously doing for a long time.
Yeah. I think there's an imbalance out there, really,
Mm,
with a lot of people. Like, there's too much doing, not enough being, and we're human beings when it comes down to it. I mean, we live in this information age, don't we, where we're bombarded with advice to think
mm,
more, do more, analyze
mm,
everything. And some of it, of course, helpful, but it can be relentless. And most people don't even realize how wired we've become to that
mm,
constant push.
mm,
Parents, carers, especially, there's this pressure to always be giving out and doing and looking after others. And
mm,
that can create that serious imbalance. And then on top of that, there's, all this content about perfect morning routines and ice baths, staying active, and on and on. And yeah, can be helpful, but can be too much. So sometimes the best thing we can do is balance all that action out by simply being. So being present, being ourselves, being kind, and even just 10 minutes a day in being mode can help reset it and bring that bit of peace back in.
I have noticed over the past couple of weeks that just exposure to some things online have been causing me to feel a little bit panic, a bit anxious, a bit like it feels a bit like a pressure kettle, if you like, or a pressure cooker even.
Mm.
and and I think it's because there's a lot of don't say this, or don't do that, do this instead.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to what you were saying is it does take us a little bit away from our authentic selves. Like we just need to be ourselves and not worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's very important to be ourselves. And I heard a good quote yesterday, and I'm probably going to misquote it now, but it was something along the lines of, I am the I that says I am.
Mm.
So, we can say, like, I am, going back to my introduction at the start, I am a mindfulness teacher. This is my name. But all of those things are roles in life, how we're feeling. They are things that can change, but behind us is that awareness that is always there. So just to be and to come back to that from time to time can be really nurturing.
Can you share an example, perhaps somebody who's been to your classes where you've just seen this massive shift from where they were before the mindfulness and then afterwards?
Yeah, so I've seen mindfulness create some real change in lots of people's lives. So, for example, I'm working with someone who struggled with OCD for years. And through our sessions, they've learned to create a bit more space between the and the action. So now when those compulsions arise, they can pause and notice what's happening and let the urge pass without acting on it. That's
Right.
a big thing. I mean, it might sound small, but for
No,
them,
no, no, no.
it's
That's
been
yeah,
huge. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
the space that mindfulness brings, that difference between feeling controlled by the mind and then feeling like
Mm.
you have a choice, that can be really like beneficial. Another example that really inspired me is someone I met on my teacher training course. And this lady used to be a primary school teacher, loved her job, but all of the red tape, the admin, and the stress of it really took a toll. And then she became unwell, ended up taking time off with like a stress related illness. And during that time, she discovered mindfulness and started practicing regularly. And she shared an example about she was practicing mindful walking in the park one day, and she didn't realize like before how many colors there were in the park and how vivid everything seemed to be.
Mm.
And she noticed it was really like powerful for her, and life itself felt more vivid again the more she practiced. So she never went back to teaching in a traditional sense, but instead, she made mindfulness a full time mission. So, working with stressed out teachers and children in
Mm.
schools. And she managed to really take her own difficult experience and turn it into something that helps others, which is a great attitude to have. Like there's an attitudinal aspect to the practice as well. And that one of what's happening for me rather than what's happening to me can be really powerful and quite inspiring. Like when you hear stories like this, you know, turning what was a pretty negative and difficult situation into something positive to then go on and help others is a lovely, lovely ripple effect that I love seeing in this kind of work.
They're really two inspiring examples and shows how powerful the mindfulness can be in a very gentle and nurturing way. Can you tell us about your classes? Where can people find them? And
So I run classes in yoga studios, community centres in the Manchester area. I'm on social media. DG Mindfulness is the best way to find out about the classes. on, what am I on now? Insta, Facebook, YouTube as well. So I've got some free uploads on my YouTube channel. Again, that's DG Mindfulness. Dabbling a bit with TikTok. I know we had this conversation a while ago.
Yeah, I quite like it.
Yeah.
Surprised.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised like it, and it's not how I perceived it to be, I have to say.
Yeah. Have you been doing a bit more on TikTok then?
Yeah, a little bit more, yeah. I've been doing some videos and, like, just posting photos and things, and it's quite responsive. I find it quite responsive.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
seems like the videos tend to get pushed out to more people, which is
Mm.
good. And it feels like it's coming a bit more like YouTube as well, because there's another mindfulness teacher that I know that's on there. And he posts like 10-minute videos now and still gets a good response from them.
Mhm.
So that might be another one that I'll explore. But anyway,
Mm.
so the in-person classes can be really rich and powerful. It was actually through me attending meditation class myself in person that I realized this. So I'm very keen to have those in-person classes, so people can get together. We build these little communities and we have that shared space. And even when we're sitting together in silence, it can feel quite rich and different to practicing alone at home. And over time, I've adapted my classes so they're more experiential and less about me talking at people, lecturing people. So they're gentle but immersive. And we're building the communities, as I said, we learn from each other, but there's no pressure to share. Some people prefer just to come along and reflect on their own quietly, and both approaches completely welcome. Trauma informed, as I mentioned at the beginning, so really keen for the sessions to be a safe, secure space for people to take time for themselves. And we usually start with a brief introduction and some gentle mindful movement and breath work, grounding through the senses, because as I said, it can be quite challenging to just come from a busy morning straight into a mindfulness meditation. So that grounding at the
Yeah.
beginning can be helpful with that. And then
Mm.
we move into our themed mindfulness meditation for that week. A lot of people do arrive at the classes feeling tense, scattered, weighed down by the week, but it's always quite a rewarding feeling when you can often see the difference in the faces, the shoulders softening, breathing slowed down, and there's that sense of calm that wasn't there an hour ago. And one of the mindfulness attitudes is non-striving. We're just being with whatever is there, but we can practice informed mindfulness as well. And the way that I've designed the classes is generally to allow people to leave feeling a little bit lighter and more present, then better equipped to navigate whatever the rest of the week.
I'll make sure all those details, your social media links are in the show notes so people can check
Oh,
them.
brilliant. Thank you.
So what's next for you? What's your plans going forward?
Well, next up, apart from setting up a TikTok, I didn't mention actually in that, just briefly, sorry, I am looking at arranging a session on Zoom as well.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I understand, for some people it can be difficult to access the classes in person. So I'll be getting that up and running, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. That way people can join from anywhere. I'm looking at another venue in Manchester City Centre as well. So if you keep an eye on my social media, there'll hopefully be an announcement about that soon. And then towards the end of the year, I'll be running an 8-week The Mindfulness Now course. And that blends elements of MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction, and MBCT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. A great program for deepening practice and developing tools that really embed into day-to-day life. And maybe more podcasts. I love these kind of conversations. I've really enjoyed this one. It helps really to demystify mindfulness, because mindfulness itself has become a bit of a buzzword, but many people don't quite understand what it's about. The best way, as with everything, is to experience it for yourself. If people are looking to start, I'd say start with a 3-minute breathing space. It only takes 3 minutes of your time, and then you can gradually build up. And I've got a recording of that and upload on YouTube if anyone wants to have a look at that. But I'm keen, through these kind of conversations as well, to just get across that it can be down to earth and practical. And it's not just about sitting cross-legged on a mountain. Although if anyone wants to invite me to one, I wouldn't say no.
Dave, I've really enjoyed our conversation and thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you, Andrea. Appreciate it. I've enjoyed it too. Thank you.
I really enjoyed that conversation today. And if I'm honest, I so needed the calmness and the gentleness. It was a conversation that gently challenges misconceptions around mindfulness, and that mindfulness isn't a quick fix, but is a different way of seeing, doing, and thinking about the challenges that we face in life and how we approach them, and that we do so with awareness, curiosity, and care. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of The Connection Compass. If you think it will help someone else, please leave a review. If you're interested in the Manchester event on the 20th of October, please check the show notes. And if you have any questions, please visit Andrea L. Evans' Facebook page. And remember to keep talking, keep connecting for a more interconnected world.